Welcome back. Is day 12 of reading every day for the rest of my life. I'll fix the camera here. Today we got an actor's handbook by Konstantin Stanislavski. I have the second book I'm going to read, which is right here. I just want to show y'all. I'm going to read this right here. Discipline is Destiny. I think I should just read it. I just gotta put all this in my brain, and then we'll be chilling. And then here's another one that I'm also gonna read on the series, The Alien Perspective. I'm also gonna read The Hobbit and the entire Lord of the Rings series, and 1984 by George Orwell. And yeah, okay, let me set. Sorry, this video is gonna be a little longer than 30 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes starting now. Living image. Each dramatic and artistic image created on the stage is unique and cannot be repeated, just as in nature. Without an external form, neither your inner characterization, nor the spirit of your image will reach the public. The external characterization explains and illustrates. An actor is called upon to create an image while he is on the stage and not just show himself off to the public. All actors who are artists, creators of images, should make use of characterization. There are some actors for whom the image they have created becomes their alter ego, their double. The image never leaves them. They constantly watch the image, not in order to copy it, but because they find themselves under its spell, in its power, and they act thus because they are living the life of their image. Logic and continuity. In every phase of our work, we constantly and occasion to speak of logic and continuity. They are of prime importance. Creating must be logical and have continuity. Even illogical and incoherent characters must be represented within the logical plane and framework of a whole play, a whole performance. How to accomplish this? By means of physical actions, because they are easier to establish, materially and visually, and are yet closely tied to all the other elements. It is easier to orient oneself with their aid. Having prepared a logical and coherent line of physical actions, we discover that parallel to it will run a logical and coherent line of emotion. Come to the tragic part of a role. Gradually and logically, by carrying out correctly your sequence of external physical actions and by believing in them, do not think about your emotions. Think about what you have to do. If you do not adhere strictly to an absolute pattern of logic and continuity, you are in danger of conveying passions, images, actions in a generalized form. If an actor keeps in constant exercise, he will come to know practically all human actions from the point of view of their component parts, their consecutiveness and their logic. But this work must be done daily, constantly, like the vocalizing of a singer or the exercises of a dancer. Systematic and absolutely valid exercises of actions without props. Magic if. From the moment of appearance of the magic if, the actor passes from the plane of actual reality into the plane of another life, created and imagined by him. In order to be emotionally involved in his imaginary world, which the actor builds on the basis of a play, in order to be caught up in the action of the stage, he must believe in it. This does not mean he should give himself up to anything like hallucination. Quite the contrary. He does not forget that he is surrounded by stage scenery and props. He asks himself, but if this were real, how would I react? What would I do? And normally, naturally, this if acts as a lever to lift him into a world of creativity. The secret of the effect of if is that it does not use fear of force, another quality. It arouses an inner real activity, an instantaneous inner stimulus, adds a whole series of contingencies based on your own experiences in life, and you will see how easy it is for you to sincerely believe in the possibility of what you are called upon to do on stage. Makeup. One feature in my makeup gave a living and comic expression to my face, and something suddenly turned within me. All that had been dim became clear. All that was groundless suddenly had ground under its feet. All that I did not believe in suddenly found my trust. Something had ripened within me, slowly filling with life while it was in the bud. And now at the last it bloomed. And now at last it bloomed. An accidental touch of the makeup brush on my face served to open the flower of the role. Every actor should have an attitude of respect, affection, and attention for his makeup. It must not be laid on mechanically, but, if one can say so, with psychology while he broods over the soul of life of his part. then the slightest wrinkle will acquire its inner basis from something in life that produces it. Material for creativeness. You must constantly be adding to your store. For this purpose, you draw principally upon your own impressions, feelings, and experiences. You also acquire material from life around you, real and imaginary, from reminiscences, books, art, science, knowledge of all kinds, from journeys, museums, and above all, communication with other human beings. We are asked to interpret the life of human souls all over the world. An actor creates not only the life of his times, but that of the past and future as well. That is why he needs to observe, conjecture, to experience, to be carried away with emotion. If his creation is to interpret the past, the future, or an imaginary epoch, he is either to reconstruct or to recreate something out of his imagination. The inner experience of an actor, the circle of his living impressions and emotions, should certainly be constantly enlarged, because it is only under such conditions that an actor can extend the circle of his own creativeness. Measure, proportion. We cannot leave things to chance. An actor must know how to proceed under ordinary circumstances when a whole act is too large to handle, how to break it up. If one detail is not sufficient, add others. A sense of measure will help. On the stage, it is easy for an actor to lose his sense of measure. It seems to him he is doing too little, with a big audience he should do a lot more. Knowing his peculiarity on the stage, he should not increase his activity, but rather cut 3/4 of it. Mechanical acting. In mechanical acting, there is no necessity for a living process. You will understand this better when you come to recognize the origins and methods of mechanical acting, which we characterize as rubber stamp. Some of these established cliches have become traditional and are passed down from generation to generation. Still others are invented by the actors themselves. Time and constant habit make even senseless things near and dear. No matter how skillful an actor may be in his choice of stage conventions, because of their inherent mechanical quality, he cannot move the spectators by them, so he takes refuge in what we call theatrical emotions. They are a sort of artificial imitation of the periphery of physical feelings. The very worst fact is that cliches will fill up in every empty spot in a role, which is not already solid with living feeling. Moreover, they often push in ahead of feeling. That is why an actor must protect himself most consciously against such devices, and this is true even of gifted actors, capable of true creativeness. Memory. At moments of intense creativeness, one's memory may fail and break the continuity of the line of transmitting the verbal text of a play. This preoccupation with remembering the words when an actor is unsure of himself deprives him of the capacity to give himself up freely and wholly to his ardent creative mood. It is all important for an actor to have a good memory. Mirror. Use of. You must be very careful in the use of a mirror. It teaches an actor to watch the outside rather than the inside of his soul, both in himself and in his part. The responsibility for creating this ensemble for its artistic integrity, the expressiveness of the overall performance lies with the director. In the period when the director was a dispo, he worked out the whole plan of the production. He indicated the general outlines of the parts, taking into consideration, of course, the participating actors, and he showed them all the business. But now I have arrived at the conviction that the creative work of the director must proceed in unison with that of the actors, and not distance it nor hold it back. He must facilitate the creativeness of the actors, supervise and integrate it, taking care that it evolves naturally and only from the true artistic kernel of the play. Begins with analysis and proceeds along the line of through-line action. This implies also to the external shaping of a performance. That should be, in my opinion, the objective of a director nowadays. Naive. This is a precious asset for an actor. It cannot be fabricated or the result is affectation. So be naive to the extent that it is part of your nature to be so. Every actor is to some degree naive, but in ordinary life he is embarrassed to show this quality, so he masks it. Do not do that when you are on the stage. In order to induce naivety, an actor should be concerned, not with the quality of itself, but with what promotes and also what interferes with it. The thing that interferes with it most of all is a spirit of carping criticism. In order to be naive, one cannot be over meticulous and analytical when using one's imagination. The greatest help to naivety are faith and a sense of truth. Therefore, in the first instant, Seek out what is true for you and that in which you can have faith. Naturalism. To those who think we sought naturalism on the stage are mistaken. We never leaned toward such a principle. We sought inner truth, the truth of feeling and experience, continuing to play the new for the sake of the new. We declared war on such interpretation of peasant plays. We wanted to show the real Mushik peasant, and not only the costume but also the inner physique of his whole soul. But we had not reached the stage where we can interpret the spiritual side in order to fill the void. We exaggerated the external side. This remained without inner justification for lifeless objects, properties, and sounds began to bulge out of the general scheme. This resulted in naked naturalism. And the nearer it was to reality, the worse it was. Naturalism on the stage is only naturalism when it is justified by the inner experience of an actor. It would advise all theoreticians who do not know this form of their own experience to seek my words tested on the stage. You use naturalism for the sake of naturalism. That kind of objective and that kind of scenic truth is anti-artistic. Nature. The greatest artist we know is nature, the creative nature of all artists, which is in the center and parts of our physical and spiritual makeup, even those of which we are not aware. We have no direct means of approaching her, but there exist oblique ones which are little known. This admitted lack of knowledge is the outgrowth of wisdom. To me, it is the urge to attain, with the help of a sensitive heart, the unattained, and it will be attained in time. In expectation of these new triumphs of science, I have felt there was nothing for me to do except to devote my labors and energies almost exclusively to the study of creative nature. I have acquired a sum of experience in the course of long years of work, and this is what I have sought to share with you. The most powerful, vivid, and convincing adaptations are the products of that wonder-working artist, nature. They are almost wholly of subconscious origin. Here is an example of intuitive adjustment as an expression of supreme sorrow. In my life in art, there is a description of how a mother received the news of the death of her son. In the first few moments, she expressed nothing but began hurriedly to dress. Then she rushed to the street door and cried, "Help!" And adjustments of that sort cannot be reproduced either intellectually or with the aid of technique. It is created naturally, spontaneously, unconsciously, at the very moment when emotions are at their height. Sorry, I was just thinking about it. It's interesting. It is created naturally, spontaneously, unconsciously, at the very moment when emotions are at their height. Yet that type, so direct, vivid, and convincing, represents the effective method we need. It is only by such means that we create and convey to an audience of thousands all the finer, barely perceptible shades of feelings. But to such experiences, the only approach is through intuition and the subconscious. In the realm of intuition and the subconscious, I know nothing except that these secrets are open to the great artist's nature. You can go astray only if you do not have confidence in nature. Nature's laws are binding on all, without exception, and woe to those who break them. Objectives. Life, people, circumstances constantly put up barriers. Each of these barriers present us with the objective of getting through it. The division of a play into units to study its structure. One has purpose. There is another, far more important inner reason. At the heart of every unit lies a creative objective. Every objective must carry in itself the germs of action. You should not try to express the meaning of your objective in terms of a noun, but always to employ a verb. I wish to do. This objective engenders outbursts of desires for the purposes of creative aspiration. It is important that an actor's objectives be in accordance with his capacities. At first, it is better to choose simple physical but attractive objectives. Every physical objective will contain something of a psychological objective. They are indissolubly bound together. Do not try too hard to define the dividing line. Go by your feelings, always tipping the scale slightly in favor of the physical. The right execution of a physical objective will help to create a right psychological state. An actor should know how to distinguish among the qualities of objectives, avoiding the irrelevant ones and establishing those appropriate to his part. Appropriate objectives must be on our side of the footlights. personal yet analogous, an, analogous to those of the characters portrayed. Truthful to that yourself, the actors playing with you and your audience can believe it in their clear-cut purpose. They must be distinctly woven into the fabric of your part, active, to push your role ahead and not let it stagnate. Let me warn you against purely motive objectives, which are prevalent in the theater and lead to mechanical performance. Observation. An actor should be observant not only on the stage but also in real life. He should concentrate with all his being on whatever attracts his attention. There are people gifted by nature with powers of observation. When you hear such people talk, you are struck by the amount that an observant person misses. Average people have no conception of how to observe the facial expression, the look of the eye, the tone of the voice, in order to comprehend the state of a mind of a person whom they could talk. If they could do this, their creative work would be immeasurably richer, finer, and deeper. This calls for a tremendous amount of work, time, desire to succeed, and systematic practice. Let me redo that. This calls for a tremendous amount of work, time, desire to succeed, and systematic practice. How can we teach unobservant people to notice what nature and life are trying to show them? First of all, they must be taught to look at, listen to, and to hear what is beautiful. Such habits elevate their minds and arouse feelings which will leave deep traces in their emotion memories. Nothing in life is more beautiful than nature, and it should be in the object of constant observation. Take a little flower or a petal from it, or a spider web, or a design made by frost on the window pane. Try to express in words what it is in these things that gives pleasure. Such an effort causes you to observe the object more closely, more effectively, and do not shun the darker side of nature. Disfigurement often sets off beauty. Search out both beauty and its opposite, and define them, learn to know and see them. Next, turn to what the human race has produced in art, literature, and music. Pauses in speech. The first one to be done with speech or the words is always divided into measures, to place the pauses. The logical pause mechanically shapes the measures, whole phrases of the text, and thereby contributes to intelligibly. The psychological pause adds life to the thoughts. It is an eloquent silence. It helps to convey the subtextual content of the words. If speech without the logical pause is unintelligible without the psychological pause, it is lifeless. The logical pause serves our brain. There's one kind of pause, just sufficient for a quick intake of a breath. The pause is an important element in our technique of speech. Performance. It is only when it is performed on the stage that a play is revealed in all of its fullness and essence. It is only that then the living soul of a play, of its text and subtext, is conveyed by the actors. By adhering to their inner line of images, the actors remain true to the subtext and through line of action. And by the same token, they renew their emotion memories, which enabled them to live their parts. There may be certain variations, but that is all to the good, as spontaneity and the unexpected are both excellent stimuli to creativity. The tempo rhythm of a play is made up of a series of varying tempi and rhythms, harmoniously blending into a single whole. The overall effect may be one of grandeur, majesty, lightness, gaiety. According to whatever tempi and rhythm preponderate, their importance in any given performance is in any case enormous. A fine play, well produced and acted, may not be successful because it is performed in too slow a tempo or hurried along at an inappropriate quick one. For actors, life on the stage represents a real living. In every performance, our life is to pursue a super objective, along a through line of action among given circumstances. When actors mature in their parts and live in them, they can discard all superfluities. Then their roles are like crystals of emotions, harmonizing with the overall tone, rhythm, tempo of the production. Then the play is really ready to be performed before an audience. Performing in general. This phrase, in general, is the bane of the theater. Its effect is to blur all emotional outlines and prevent an actor from feeling any solid ground on which he can stand with confidence. In hurried or general descriptions, we carry very little whether we transmit corresponds to reality. We are satisfied with any general characterization or illusion. These methods of portraying feeling in general exist in every one of us, and they are used without any relation to the why, wherefore, or circumstances in which a part has experienced them. Such ham acting is elementary to a ridiculous degree. On the stage, there cannot be, under any circumstances, action which is directly, immediately at the arousing of a feeling for its own sake. Never seek to be jealous, or to make love, or to suffer for its sake. All such feelings are the result of something that has gone before. True art and performing in general are incompatible. The one destroys the other. Art does not tolerate anyhow in general approximately. Perspective and character building. Perspective means the calculated, harmonious interrelationship and distribution of the part of the whole of the play or role. There can be no acting without its appropriate perspective. Only after an actor has thought through, analyzed, and felt himself to be living a person inside of his own part, there opens up to him the long, beautiful, beckoning perspective. Against this depth of a background, he can play out whole actions, speak whole thoughts. When he comes to live laying on the color along the lines of artistic perspective, we again are obliged to adhere to qualities of consecutiveness, tone, and harmony. As painting, artistic coloring does a very great deal to make it possible to distinguish planes. The important parts are most highly colored, whereas those regulated to the background are less vivid. As a part moves along, we have two perspectives in mind. The one is related to the character portrayed, the other to the actor. Actually, Hamlet, as a figure in a play, knows nothing of what the future has in store for him, whereas the actor who plays the part must bear this constantly in mind. He is obliged to keep in perspective. We must not forget one extremely important quality inherent in a perspective. It lends a breadth, a sweep of momentum to our inner experiences and external actions. Perspective and the through line of action are not identical, but the one is the other's closest aid. Plasticity of motion. The more subtle the emotions, the greater the clarity, precision, and plasticity needed to convey them in the physical form. Among dramatic actors, some use plasticity for the sole purpose of impressing their admirers of the opposite sex. Other actors have worked out for themselves a permanently fixed kind of plasticity that they pay no further attention to that side of their physical actions. If they would lend an attentive ear to their own mechanics, they would sense an energy rising from the deepest wells of their being. It is charged with emotions, desires, objectives, for the purpose of arousing this or that action. Energy, heated by emotion, charged with will, directed by the intellect, manifests itself in action, full of feeling, content, and purpose, which cannot be carried out in any slipshod mechanical way, but must be fulfilled in accordance with its spiritual impulses. Movement and action which follow an inner pattern are essential to real artists in drama, ballet, and other theater and plastic arts. This is also true of other parts. Music must have that same unbroken line of sound, and can a painter achieve the simple outline of a drawing without it? Art itself originates in the moment when that unbroken line is established, be it of sound, drawing, or movement. That is the motion which creates fluency, the plasticity of body movement, which is so necessary. At the foundation of plasticity of movement, one must establish an inner flow of energy. External plasticity is based on our inner sense of the movement of energy. Playwright dominates. A theater in which the most powerful personality is the playwright or a literary director becomes a literary theater. The principal place is occupied by subtle interpretations of a playwright's work. In such theaters, the interesting elements are the general concepts of an approach to a play, the treatment of ideas, style, character, psychology, etc. In every pose, intonation, gesture of an actor, an idea is concealed, or some generalization, allegory, knowledge, etc. The playwright's works are so successfully revealed by the literary director that the other participants in the performance have to submit to his creative initiative, and do all they can convey concisely, beautifully, the intent for the production of their talented literary director. As a result, you enjoy a large and honorable success, get serious reviews, stir arguments among the pundits, are the subject of essays. Yet has this theater fulfilled its fundamental objective in art? Has it created the life of a human spirit and clothed it in a beautiful physical form? No. Plot. I almost said pilot. There are plays, inferior comedies, melodramas, vaudevilles, reviews, farces, where the external plot is the mainspring of the action. The high points are the facts of a murder, a death, a wedding, the dumping flour or water on one of the characters. In other plays, the plot as such has little significance. In such plays, it is not facts, but the relationship of the characters to them that constitutes the center of interest. In such plays, facts are needed not only to extent that they provide motivation and opportunity for the actors to express their inner content. Chekhov's plays are in this category. The best thing is when form and content are in complete harmony. There are the life of a human spirit, and a part is inseparable from the facts of the plot. Let the actor learn by heart, and write down the existent facts, their sequence, and their external physical connection with one another. With growing experiences of the play and its contents, this method helps not only to pick out the facts and orient oneself in relation to them, but also to get at that inner substance, their interrelationship and interdependence. Pre-performance preparation. Most actors, before each performance, put on costumes and makeup so that their external appearance will approximate that of the characters they are to play. But they forget the most important part, which is the inner preparation. Why do they devote so much particular attention to their external appearance? Why do they not put makeup and costume on their souls? The inner preparation for a part is as follows. Instead of rushing into his dressing room at the last moment, an actor should, especially if he has a big part, arrive there 2 hours ahead of his entrance and begin to get himself in form. You know that a sculptor needs his clay before he begins to use it, and a singer warms up his voice before a concert. We need to do something similar to tune our inner strings, to test the keys, the pedals, and the stops. We must exercise great care each time we have a creative piece of work to do, to prepare. A true inner creative mood. To prepare yourself, go over the fundamental parts of your role. You do not need to develop them fully. What you must do is ask, am I sure of my attitude towards this or that particular place? Do I really feel this or that action? Think up various or particular place. Do I really feel this or an action? Think of up various suppositions and suggest possible circumstances into which you put yourself. All these preparatory exercises test your expressive apparatus and will tune up your inner creative instrument. Psychotechnique. In the soul of a human being, there are certain elements subject to consciousness and will. These accessible parts are capable in turning of acting on psychic processes. To arouse your subconscious to creative work is a special technique. In the first period of conscious work on the role, an actor feels his way into a life of his part without altogether understanding what is going on in it, in him and around him. When he reaches the region of the subconscious, the eye of his soul are opened, and he is aware of everything, even minute details, and it all acquires an entirely new significance. He is conscious of new feelings, conceptions, visions, attitudes, both his role and in himself. I do not give you any technical means to gain control of the subconscious. I can only teach you the direct method to approach it and give yourself up to its power. When an actor is completely absorbed by some profoundly moving object, so that he throws his whole being passionately into its execution, he reaches a state that we call inspiration. In it, almost everything he does is subconscious, and he has no conscious realization of how he accomplishes his purpose. What happens of its own accord in life and in natural manner has to be prepared on the stage by the use of a psychotechnique. Public solitude. In a circle of light on the stage in the midst of darkness, you have the sensation of being entirely alone. This is called solitude in public. During a performance before an audience of thousands, you can always enclose yourself in the circle like a nail in its shell. You can carry it with wherever you go. Realism. Among theater leaders, actors, spectators, critics, there are many who prefer theatricality and artificiality. They are surfeited with realistic actuality on the stage, not the way it is in real life, they say. To get away from it, they search out the most exaggerated anti-realistic forms. In contrast to them are those who prefer and accept in the theater only natural truthfulness, realism. They are not afraid of the catharsis of their souls through powerful impressions. All they want on the stage is a reflection of the real life of human souls. In both cases, they are excesses. In the first, the sharpness of the theatricality is carried to the point of the absurd, and in the second, the simplicity of naturalness is pushed to the limits of unnaturalism. For example, an actor exaggerates truth in a death sentence to an undesirable degree, with cramps, nausea, groans, horrible grimaces, indulging in naturalism for its own sake, instead of being preoccupied with the last moments of a human soul. Truth on the stage must be real, but rendered poetic through creative imagination. Impressionism and other isms in art are accepted only insofar as they represent realism in a refined, ennobled, distilled form. Rehearsal. An actor must constantly practice to achieve a true creative mood at all times, whether he is performing, rehearsing, or working at home. Some actors have the insufferable habit of rehearsing in barely perceptible low tones when speaking their lines. What can one do but form bad habits? What is your partner to derive you from such cues? An actor is obliged to produce his part in full, to give the right responses to his partner, follow correctly the laid out line of the play, and respond to what is said to him by his partner. Otherwise, a rehearsal loses all meaning. If everyone takes the right attitude towards collective obligations, comes to a rehearsal properly prepared. Hey! Looks like that's 30 minutes up. Thanks for watching. See you day 13. Almost 2 weeks. Let's go.